Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Kyle Roerink joins us. He's Executive Director of Great Basin Water Network, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Wasteful Washington spending is killing us with inflation and sky-high prices on groceries and gas. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto voted to allow hundreds of millions of dollars of COVID relief funds to be squandered on a luxury resort in Florida, a New Jersey soccer stadium, a ski area in Iowa. Tell Senator Cortez Masto to start voting against reckless spending to stop inflation. Nevada families need cheaper gas and food, not frivolous luxuries in other states.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
With Nevada's only transplant center and verified burn center, the science is here. With award-winning cardiologist and the state's only dedicated heart failure clinic, the talent is here. With Nevada's most advanced robotic surgery, the technology is here. And with the Silver State's only designated pediatric trauma center, hope is here. All because we are here. UMC.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Kyle Roerink. He is Executive Director of the Great Basin Water Network. Pleasure to have you back on the program, sir.
Howdy, Sam. Glad to be here.
So, as we look at the latest news coming out of the Colorado River, we know that normally the federal government takes decades to do anything to do with water. It took Harry Reid 30 years to get the Truckee River operating agreement from start to finish. And there's still battles going on over that, but it did get done. Now, the Department of Interior has given a 60-day notice, and this is about a month and a half ago, because of the needs on the Colorado River to reduce the flows. What are your thoughts on A, the speed at which this is being asked to be done, and the cooperation between the states, who have been cooperating privately for quite a long time now, but now they're being forced to really move to cut water from the Colorado?
It's unprecedented, Sam, and when you look at that short time frame, when I use the word unprecedented, I'm looking at it through the lens of this. The two major management paradigms right now that currently allow for the current river operations, the 2007 interim guidelines and the 2019 drought contingency plan. Those took years to develop, and a lot of very contentious provisions, and everybody wants to get what's best for their state, all the negotiators and managers on the river. And so now the states are being asked, and largely lower basin states are being asked, to bear the brunt of the largest cuts ever imposed on the river by great magnitude in such a short period of time. It's a whirlwind venture. We'll see what they come up with. I wouldn't be surprised if there were litigation someday, but they've been able to put their heads together, come up with solutions. I think really what this is all about is how big of a check can you write And so we'll see how.
What do you mean
big
by
the
that?
checks. I think really, how do you make the cuts, right? Where do you come up with 2 to 4 million acre feet when there's not a whole lot of water flowing through the system?
Oh, okay, all right. Well, let's start there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're seeing finally, over the last couple of years, the Southern Nevada Water Authority helping to fund projects for the Metropolitan Water District in Southern California that will end up freeing up water from California to be able to go towards Nevada, correct? So, there are things being done. Nevada has been a role model for the country, if not the world, maybe second only to the Israelis in terms of water conservation. We've just seen in the last couple of days, the Clark County Commission has said that you can't have a swimming pool larger than 600 square feet, which is not making pool builders very happy. But I think everybody is recognizing that there needs to be as many cutbacks as possible. Cutting back on the grass that is not actually in use in freeway medians and things like that to get rid of that. So Nevada, or Southern Nevada in particular, has done a great job. But then you look at Utah, and you look at Arizona, and you look at flood irrigation in California, and you throw up your hands and go, well, hang on a second, there is a lot of water that is just being, in my opinion, mismanaged when there could be significant savings coming from that.
Yeah, and I think what you're really getting at is there are rural issues with water usage, and then there are the urban issues. And everybody is lagging behind Southern Nevada as it relates to the urban issues, whether it be turf removal, other efficiencies, even things like the swimming pool size reductions, which were just passed this week. And and I think here's the rub. So you look at the swimming pool reductions, that'll save Southern Nevada 10 acre feet. But again, we're dealing with a situation where we need millions of acre feet cut. And so why I said, how big of a check can you write? Really, it's going to come down to, what agricultural producers I think are going to be bringing to the table. And now the issue there is a lot of those producers have very strong senior rights. These institutions were there prior to the growth of cities like Vegas or Phoenix or the metropolitan area of Southern California. So really to get that water, you're going to have to write some big checks, and there's going to be a lot of sideboards and parameters to that, because water is like gold, and everybody is going to want to hang on to those rights, even if they're compensated for a short period of time to help prop up the system.
So are some of the ideas that have been floated, pardon the pun, for example, collecting the floodwaters that come when there's heavy runoff in Southern California, and right now billions of gallons of water are just flowing out to the sea. Yet when you talk to people about those kind of projects, they're 30 years in the future. Do they need to be 3 years in the future?
They do. I mean, flood control is actually, per the decree in the Arizona versus California Supreme Court battle, the result of that, one of the top priorities is something like flood control. That's what the Supreme Court has said. And so, of course, you need to mobilize any and all efforts to make any improvements there. Just as you should, be encouraging folks to rip out their lawns, you have to also encourage communities to make those types of investments, kind of the big picture infrastructure to help get every drop you can back into that system.
And is the California Coastal Commission still opposing every attempt to do desalination?
Well, there's the Carlsbad plant, but there was a recent desal plant that kind of crashed and burned, for lack of a better term. But I think right now, where Arizona is, they're looking to Mexico right now in the Gulf of California, Sea of Cortez, and I think that's where you're going to see it. Because, there is no silver bullet, there is no easy solution. You you can get into the whole NIMBYism debate anywhere you go, but I think smart money may be on Mexico being able to get water.
And isn't that an irony? Because Mexico has been so cooperative in leaving water in Lake Mead, and the amount of Colorado River water they actually get is not that great to begin with.
And by the time it gets down there.
Right. And so that is pretty remarkable. You also have the incidents over the last decade or so of so many farms from Southern California moving their operations over into northern Mexico. And so, that water is not being used in agriculture in Southern California. But then you look at the Central Valley and, one of the breadbaskets of the nation, and yet they are using vast amounts of water on the most productive crops like almonds, where they make a lot of money, versus other products. What do you do at that point? Is it something where the federal government has to come in and give some kind of financial remedy to these companies to prevent them from growing that, so they can be grown in places that make more sense?
Water rights are property rights, and so if we as a nation believe that the water would be better used somewhere else rather than for growing food for the nation, you're going to have to compensate people for their property rights. And so when I talk about, how big of a check are you going to be able to write, we're looking at some of the big boys in Southern California and in southwestern Arizona and Imperial County and Yuma and out there. And I think we saw it late last year. A good example is the Palo Verde irrigation district, which got compensated to leave water in the system. And so, for better or for worse, there's a lot to be said about fallowing fields. What will that mean for everything from the soil in the future to food prices at the grocery store? But the crop that everyone is really focusing on as it relates to the Colorado River is alfalfa. And very profitable crop in the desert Southwest. You can get a lot of what they call cuts of it. You can grow it and then cut it and get it out to market 6 to 12 times a year. Very profitable business, and then that largely goes out to livestock feed. And so the question is if you're going to get rid of all of that, and what could that do to beef prices down the road, for example? I don't necessarily know. At the same time, a lot of those.
I am not eating Impossible Burgers. I am sorry.
I know you're not.
I want my beef.
Not doing that, Sam.
But now you have companies like Winnemucca Farms. Eric Hull, the general manager, was on the program a few weeks ago, and is going to come back and talk more about this. But they seem to be using modern day technology to be very water thrifty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this has happened already. The Imperial Irrigation District, for example, over the past decade or so, has conserved about 500,000 acre feet. While they've also been transferring, there were major transfers to Los Angeles and San Diego, and there's more that's being done. Yuma, for example, which grows a preponderance of our nation's lettuce supply in the winter, they just got infrastructure money to line their canals, for example. And so I think you're going to see more of that as well.
And that also opens up another battle, which is what you're seeing between Fernley and Fallon right now.
Indeed.
Which is where I've been hearing about the canal needing to be lined for decades. And now they're actually going through with it, and Fernley residents are resisting because the leakage from the canal is what has recharged their basins. And so, it's never that simple.
It's not, and you can get into it with wildlife as well as the human uses. Canal leakage has created essentially groundwater-dependent ecosystems that birds and other wildlife depend on, and so people will get upset about that, and then domestic well users will get upset. The list goes on and on.
But isn't that the basis of good policy? If everybody's irritated, then it must be a good thing.
There must be some.
It's all job security for you, Kyle.
That's right. That's what people keep telling me.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back with Kyle Roerink after this timeout.
Wasteful Washington spending is killing us with inflation and sky-high prices on groceries and gas. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto voted to allow hundreds of millions of dollars of COVID relief funds to be squandered on a luxury resort in Florida, a New Jersey soccer stadium, a ski area in Iowa. Tell Senator Cortez Masto to start voting against reckless spending to stop inflation. Nevada families need cheaper gas and food, not frivolous luxuries in other states.
Ahern Rentals began as Signal gas station on Las Vegas Boulevard. Founder John Ahern grew the business by offering rentals. His son Don built on John's legacy, growing Ahern Rentals into the largest independently owned American rental company with 89 locations in 30 states. Don also brought his experience and vision to equipment manufacturing with Extreme Manufacturing and Snorkel. Today, Ahern Rentals continues to bring its family values to a new generation. Learn more at ahern.com.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
For Nevada women and families, it's no joke. The Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade, taking away a woman's right to an abortion. But Adam Laxalt calls that right a joke. Listen.
Roe v. Wade was always a joke.
Roe v. Wade was always a joke. No wonder, as Attorney General, Laxalt made it a priority to push abortion bans that let the politicians overrule women and their doctors. It's not a joke. It's our right. Women Vote is responsible for the content of this ad.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Kyle Roerink. He is Executive Director of the Great Basin Water Network. So as we're talking about all these water issues, Southern Nevada has just been an unbelievable leader, perhaps second only to the Israelis in the world in terms of conservation and usage of water. But you have other states, we talked about this on the program before, St. George, Utah, growing like a weed, and yet the conservation is so limited, if at all.
Sam, I drive through there a lot.
You were just in Neely, right, recently?
And it was in St. George, in Cedar City, all over Utah, and it's disheartening.
Why do you think they don't recognize the gravity of the situation? Because it's not like Utah and Nevada don't have a lot in common.
Yeah, and I think it's a question of there is the ideology of what is government's role here. And so there are the folks who take the very limited government approach. This is our water, we're going to use it how we want, and hopefully it'll keep coming, right? There are other folks, and whether it's the Utah governor or local officials there, who just say, all we'll have to do is pray for rain and pray for storms, and God will give it to us down there. But slowly there has been at least a public relations effort to demonstrate that doing things like turf removal will be beneficial in the long run. But I don't necessarily know if they've figured out how to completely fund it all yet. The Utah legislature took one big step in its last session to start metering what they call secondary water. It's untreated water coming down off the mountains, largely used for irrigation. That was a really big step because things like metering can inherently limit someone's usage when they see, oh gosh,
Right.
Well, on paper I can only use this much, but I'm using this much, so I'll cut back. That was a big step. Now, at the same time, the legislators in Utah only allocated like $5 million for turf removal. In comparison, the SNWA has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to do, such a robust job as they have done in Vegas. And so I think, some of it is money, and some of it is mindset as well. And I think the mindset is the aesthetic. A manicured green lawn symbolizes a certain type of prosperity that I think in communities.
Aren't we 40 years past that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, and that's what makes it frustrating. Commissioner Justin Jones and I, from down in Vegas, we call it, sidewalk blooms, and it's infuriating when you see something like a sidewalk bloom where it's just wet concrete and wet pavement everywhere. You want to talk about water waste? What's it really for?
Let's leave that hang and take another break. We'll be right back.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Events Center in Las Vegas. Host meetings and events on 2 floors. Stay in luxurious rooms and suites. Unlimited branding opportunities. Regional Italian cuisine by Chef Mark Segrisi. Flexible event spaces. Full buyout options. Visit ahernhotel.com today.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
Hi, I'm Renee Summerauer, digital news anchor here at 7 at 7. Watch our streaming nonstop newscast immediately with your mobile phone. 7 at 7 is the new way for you to get every bit of local news you need in just 7 minutes. Breaking news, local neighborhood news, weather, and sports are just a click away. Reporters bring you all of what's happening in the Valley. From Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and more. Get every bit of local news you need from the RJ and LVRJ.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Carl Roerink. He's executive director of the Great Basin Water Network, but in his previous life, he was a press secretary for Dina Titus. He also was a reporter for the Las Vegas Sun. I'm going back into your dark past here. What do you think of this election cycle? I got to ask you.
I think we're just seeing more of the same, more polarization,
Do you see okay, so politics goes in swings. It goes all the way to the left, and then the response is to go all the way to the right. But eventually it ends up in the middle. Do you see a middle at any point in the near future?
When I was really coming of age and paying attention to politics closely was around 2010, when you saw that post-Obama shift, where I think both you have groups going further to the right but also further to the left. And since 2010, I haven't seen anything that signals to me there will be a push to the middle anytime soon.
You know what I'm hearing?
What's that?
What I'm hearing is from lobbyists and very influential lobbyists. They're saying that they're looking for moderates, moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats. They're not concerned about the political label. They want people that they can work with, because the big issues that everybody debates are not really what runs the country. What runs the country are all the little things that need to get done. And those aren't getting done because of this polarization. And they're looking to see who can we bring in.
Well, maybe there's something to what you're saying. Like,
well, I certainly hope so.
The Amy Tarkanian endorsement of Zach Conine
yes.
this week is one that comes to mind that I think speaks to your point.
Mayor of Winnemucca, looking at supporting Catherine Cortez Masto.
Sure, and I think. Oh gosh, what was the other thing I just had on my mind that was on the tip of my tongue? But I think the country is going to remain polarized, but whether that means politicians can get into office that can overcome that polarization, I think that's where this election will be a bellwether of that. And you see it, there have been stories this week about, how the Democrats are pushing MAGA candidates in hopes of getting someone more moderate to get, past the primary.
Okay, because they're hoping that these candidates are unelectable.
Exactly.
This is kind of goes back to the Harry Reid strategy of his campaign of getting rid of Sue Loudon, who is not necessarily a moderate at all, yeah. But they felt that it was a lot easier to beat Sharon Angle than it would have been to beat Sue Loudon.
Yeah.
And so they had no problems promoting that.
And I think the question is, when someone like David Axelrod was interviewed about that strategy this week, he said, well, yeah, I used to do that too. But the fear is that, it could backfire. Or are we, at least, and this works for the right or the left, are we at the point where the country is kind of begging for moderates again, for better or for worse?
No, what they're begging for, in my opinion, is for politicians to follow through on what they say in campaigns and actually do that once they are in governance. And that's what they're all so upset about. By the way, nothing has changed since the Romans and the Greeks back in the day, except we're not stabbing them in the hallways yet. Carl Roerink, always a pleasure to have you on the program. So come back soon, and we'll be right back.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com. You can also check our archive going back to 2005 on our website. Again, nevadanewsmakers.com. We'll see you on the next show.